Hello, and welcome to Law Talk. My name is CZ-CLEP, and I'm the co-founder of the Celebrezze Zanghi Community Legal Education Project, as we call it, CZ-CLEP for short. Our organization provides continuing education about the judiciary and legislature to attorneys, judges, government officials, and the general public. As a career educator, I recognize early on how important legal matters are and how they impact our lives. I am the nephew of the late Anthony J. Celebrezze, who was the popular five-term mayor of Cleveland and a member of President Kennedy's cabinets. As a tribute to his lifetime commitment to the legal process, we dedicate this show. Our guest today is Judge Christopher Collier of the Medina County Common Pleas Court. Judge Collier attended the United States Air Force Academy and then received his law degree from Cleveland Marshall Law School. He has been Common Pleas judge since April 1999, with previous prosecutorial experience as a prosecutor for the City of Brunswick and the chief of the felony division for Medina County prosecutor. The judge has also worked as a criminal defense attorney in private practice. Judge, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming. Judge, I know there's probably a lot of topics we could talk about, and of course, please know the invitation is always welcome to you on Law Talk. Come back anytime you want. But I picked today's topic as a former school superintendent, assistant superintendent, and somebody who worked with many troubled youths, and it's your drug court. And I found out about it. I mean, obviously, through the courthouse, I've heard about it. But I went to your website, and we're going to show this. We'll put it on the screen so everybody can get to your website. But there's, I think, an excellent explanation of what you do with the drug court. So if you don't mind, today I've put together a few questions I'd like to ask you about it. Maybe we could flesh it out a little bit more.
That's great. Love to.
Okay. Well, Judge, I think one of the first questions I'm going to ask you, it's almost a reverse order. I know you're going to tell us what the court is, but I'm going to ask you up front, why did you create the drug court?
It began in 2005, at the end of 2004, which was the end of my first term. I had a chance to look at some of the statistics from the previous year, and what I noticed was on the criminal section of my work, we had approximately 300 probation violations. That's a very large number of probation violations. I checked back to see how many new criminal cases were filed, not probation violations in previous cases, but new ones. And there were less than 300. I was having more probation violations than I was having new cases, and I wanted to know why that was. And looking through the statistics, I noted that almost all of them, 80% or more, were as a result of a positive drug test. When you put somebody on probation, you're not putting them in jail or in prison. You're allowing them to be free, and one of the requirements is that they periodically take a drug test.
Yeah.
It's usually once a month, sometimes once a week, but it's usually once a month. And the interesting thing about it is they know when it's going to be. That is to say, if you're placed on probation for a felony offense, you're told, okay, once every Thursday, the first Thursday of the month, you're to report to the probation department, and you can be drug tested. And I'm finding that I'm having great numbers of people test positive for drugs, even though they know they're going to be testing positive. That was shocking to me. Second thing is, in my court, the defendants know that if they test positive, they're immediately arrested.
Yeah.
Right there. And so I've got people who know that they're going to be tested, know that they're going to be arrested, and test positive and are arrested anyways. And I talked to the people in my staff, I talked to the probation department, and it occurred to me that the reason for this is these folks are drug addicts. And a large number of them have a drug and alcohol problem and a drug and alcohol addiction. And what you see happen with those probation violations, don't look at all 300 of them, just look at one, and I'll give you a typical example. The defendant comes into court. Maybe he comes in as a result of a theft offense or a breaking and entering. He's breaking into a car because he's stealing things so he can sell it for drugs. Or into an outbuilding because he's going to take some kind of piece of equipment and sell it. And they're almost always selling it for drugs. They come to court. You can't send every one of these people to jail or prison, and we would fill your jails or prisons in a very short period of time. So if it's a first offense or if it's a nonviolent offense, these people generally get probation. This person would show up and indicate that they have or don't have a drug problem. They're placed on probation and they're told, you're going to take a drug test. They test positive. They are brought back in front of me, and you'll hear typically, Your Honor, I had all sorts of trouble. My wife lost her job, or my child got sick, or I got in a fight with a friend of mine, and then somebody came over and he had marijuana or cocaine, and I just made a mistake. Okay. You spend a couple of days in jail, maybe a week in jail, back on probation. 3 months later, another positive test. And you get another story. And what you begin to understand is these people's lives are out of control. They are incapable of controlling their desire for and their need for drugs.
I see.
And when we saw that, and we noticed that was such a big part of our probation violation problem, we decided to do something about it. And my secretary, Christine Demlo, who's been with me from the beginning, suggested that perhaps we can come up with a diversion type program, a drug court program, and that's why we set it up.
So that was the birth of drug court right there.
The numbers.
Yeah, very interesting. We had your probation officer, Veronica Perry, on the show, and she explained to us how the whole probation system worked. So that's kind of interesting that the two are coming together.
Exactly.
And that was the genesis of your problem. Okay, well now I'm going to ask you what may have seemed like the first question I'd ask you, but in a word, just explain to the folks and myself, what is a drug court?
If a person is charged with a felony offense, these are felonies, these aren't misdemeanors if you're in my court. If you're charged with a felony offense, a drug possession offense, or a minor theft offense, a it's a felony but not of major consequence, or a felony for breaking and entering offense. These offenses, if you're willing to come into court and plead guilty to that offense, come in and say, I did this, that's me, I committed this, and I have a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction that has led me to commit these offenses, I move that case from my regular docket and regular probation and I place it in drug court. And the way drug court works is this. For a period of 1 year, you come into my courtroom every week. Every Wednesday.
Every week?
Every week. Every Wednesday. About 2:30, they come at 2 o'clock, but we start at 2:30 until about 5 o'clock. And these people who have pled guilty to the charge come into court and they report about their last week's activities. And we, my drug court administrator, that's Christine Demlo, require them to do certain things that we know will lead to a clean and sober living. For instance, imagine that you're attending drug court for the first time, that just this past Monday you've entered a plea of guilty or no contest to the charge. I don't make a finding of guilty. You've pled guilty. That permits me to make a finding and sentence you, but I don't. Instead, what I do is I say, if you make the request, I place you into the drug court program. For 1 calendar year from that date, you show up every Wednesday, and Christine and I will order this person to get to engage in a drug treatment program. There are many drug treatment programs available at different costs. Some at no cost. If you can't afford one, we can get you into a program that has a sliding scale or no cost to you. If you can afford a residential program and that is recommended, we can get you into a residential program. If you can afford a program of your own, if your private insurance pays for it, you can use that program. But we require first that they attend and complete a drug treatment program, which will be with a drug counselor, a certified drug counselor, a psychiatrist or psychologist, somebody directing that program. These are usually 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12-week programs. We monitor that. We get you to sign a release so that we know that you're going where you're going, you're doing what you're supposed to do, and we get reports back from your doctor, your drug counselor, to make sure that you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Second thing, we require that you attend aftercare. And